Happy Sabbath. Today is October 14, 2017, and we are going to start again. A week ago we did not live stream. We're going to still continue with the framework of studying the gospel, the everlasting gospel, the plan of redemption that was put with the framework of Psalms 23, right? Okay, Psalms 23. And we know that Psalms 23 is a song, because a song, what does a song mean? It is an experience. It's the experience of David. And it's also a prophecy, because it's a prophecy about Jesus, right? So we actually ended up with looking at the entire plan of redemption, from Eden and then all the way to Eden again, right? From Eden to Eden again, all right? All the way to Eden again, all right? Right? So when Eden will come back, when the earth is restored, from Eden to Eden, that's the whole entire plan of redemption, right? I'm going to add a little bit more quotes. I guess I should have done this last time, but I need to put in a few more Bible verses and quotes just to finish the thought here. Okay. This is from Youth Instructor. Okay. In their delineation of the plan of redemption, holy men of God spake as they were moved by the Holy Ghost, and Christ identified himself with the one revealed in these prophecies. So it is Christ that is revealed, right? How do you see Christ? What? How is he revealed in this plan of redemption? Right in the middle, right? He's right in the middle of it. He is the whole plan of redemption, and specifically shows, much more prominent right in the middle of it. Okay? All right. John 16:8, and when he is come, who is he that comes in John 16 verse 8? The Spirit of truth, which is the Comforter, which is the personal presence of Christ, which is come and will reprove the world of sin, righteousness, and judgment. Sin, righteousness, and judgment, right? He will reprove the sin of righteousness and judgment. Okay, that's the three-step process of the plan of redemption. That's the three-step process of the gospel, or the eternal gospel. All right? This is from VSS, is the voice in speech and song. That you will not get above the simplicity of the gospel. The gospel is very simple. It's what? 1, 2, 3. It's conviction of sin, righteousness, and judgment. It's very simple. The simplicity of the gospel. To dwell upon favorite subjects which will not enlighten the darkened conscience, or convince men of sin, righteousness, and judgment that is to come. Right? Yeah. The gospel is simple. It's not, if we don't have the faith in the power of grace, not believing in the prophecy of the holy men of Bible, pointing to the Messiah, the Son of God that was coming, that they did not believe in the miracles of Jesus, right? They did not believe in the miracles of Jesus. And they remained in darkness of sin, and then they crucified him, because they didn't believe in the prophecies that was given even starting from Moses. All right? Of sin, all right, as we continue. Of sin, because they believe not on him. They don't believe in him, right? You have to convict them of sin, right? But they don't believe in him. And because of that, they will crucify him. For all this they sin still, and believe not for his wondrous works. They don't believe in all the restoration that he did, right, of the body and the soul. He restores the body and soul. He restored them physically, but he also wants to restore the soul, right? Romans 14:23, or whatsoever is not of faith is sin, right? You have to have the faith in the power of grace. You have to have the faith in the power of grace. Even though you don't see, we're not going to be able to see Jesus, right? The disciples, when they were walking to Emmaus, they said, "Oh, we cannot see him anymore." But now they have to have the faith in the prophecies that was given, and Jesus taught them, "Hey, go back all the way to Moses. It was predicting me as the Messiah." All right, that's basically what he said. Right. So now they can walk in faith. Right. Okay. Let's see. Of righteousness. See, they will convict of sin. And of righteousness. What? Righteousness is the second step. Because I go to my Father, and ye see me no more. Of righteousness, what? Because I go to my Father. Wasn't it in this time period that he went to his Father? He was crucified, and he went to his Father, and you don't see me anymore. Because now you can walk in the path of righteousness. You don't have to, even if you don't see me, you can walk in the path of righteousness by faith. Because now you can walk by faith. All right? Acts 1:9. And when he had spoken these things, while they beheld, he was taken up, and a cloud received him out of their sight. They no longer have to walk by sight. They can now walk by faith. And walk in the path of righteousness. And of judgment. What happens at judgment? Because the prince of this world is judged, right? At the end, right? The executive judgment. But was the prince of the world judged here too? Yes, he was judged, right? Because he was no longer able to go in the weight outside of heaven. He no longer can do that. Now he's stuck on earth, right? When he caused Jesus to be crucified. Okay. God carries with him the sympathy and approval of the whole universe as step by step. It's a step-by-step process. His great plan, right? His great plans has how many steps? Big steps. There's 3 steps, 3 really big steps, right? But you can see all the steps that was laid out in Psalms 23, right? Advances to its complete fulfillment. He will carry it with him in the final eradication of rebellion. At the last end, at the judgment, that's the final eradication of rebellion. When the prince of this world shall be judged, and all who have reunited with him shall share his fate. The whole universe as witnesses to the sentence will declare, just and true are thy ways, thou King of saints. Revelation 15:3. Tough it was the hour of the power of darkness. Yet in anticipation of his triumph, Christ could say, the prince of this world is judged. Right? Viewing the work redemption as completed, he could, even in death, speak of the great final deliverance. Right? At the end. Even at that time, Satan had been judged when he crucified Jesus. But his final judgment, right? So that the world can finally be delivered. And represents things that were future as if they were present. All right? Because at that time, Satan is judged, but his final judgment is yet in the future from that time. Okay? With all the facts of the great controversy That's the whole great controversy, right? DD is darkness before dawn. Darkness before dawn. With all the facts of the great controversy in view, the whole universe, both loyal and rebellious, with one accord declare, just and true are thy ways, thou King of saints. Now the whole universe can say it is true. Yeah? It is just that you can eradicate sin. Right? It is just. Revelation 15:4. Who shall not fear thee, O Lord, and glorify thy name? For thou only art holy. For all the nations shall come and worship before thee. When is all the nations, everybody, going to wake up? All nations are going to wake up and worship thee. When is it? When the New Jerusalem descended. And what happened? All the wicked people will wake up. And they were going to attack. But then they were going to have to worship, and then they will be destroyed. They all shall come and worship at the end of 1,000 years. For thy judgments are made manifest. That's when the judgments are made manifest, right? After the 1,000 years of judgment. All right? Okay. This is from the Book of Education. The central theme of the Bible. The central theme of the Bible. The theme about which every other in the whole book clusters is the redemption plan. Right? It's the plan of redemption. That's the central theme of the Bible. The restoration in the human soul of the image of God. From the first intimation of hope in the sentence pronounced in Eden. Right? From the first time the plan of redemption was intimated to Adam and Eve when the gospel was first given. To the last glorious promise of Revelation, the burden of every book and every passage of the Bible, right? Every book and every passage of the Bible is the one unfolding of this wondrous theme. It's all talking about the plan of redemption. It's revealing Jesus, right? That Jesus is the central theme of that plan of redemption. The great plan of redemption results in fully bringing back the world into God's favor. All that was lost by sin is restored. Not only man, but the earth is redeemed to be the eternal abode of the obedience. Now you can say, I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever, right? That's the last part. That's the judgment. That's when the end of the 1,000 years. Everything, the great plan of redemption is finished for man and for earth. Okay. So, we see this is the great plan of redemption, right? The entire plan, right? And this comes on the framework of Psalms 23. That's Psalms 23, right? That's the first, second, and third angel's message. Is the give God. It's also the first angel's message, right? Give God. If this is the first angel's message, this is the second angel's message, this is the third angel's message. The first angel's message is like what we say, it's a fractal of this whole three right here. It's a summary of this. The first angel's message is fear God, give glory, for the hour of judgment is come. So it's a summary of this whole thing, the life of Jesus, right? He will come and convict you of sin, righteousness, and judgment, right? Okay. All right. So with that, we are going to continue. And we realize this is the plan of redemption. It's the covenant, the eternal covenant. Now, the eternal covenant was first given to Adam and Eve. You know, when was it renewed again? Now we're gonna now move to another line now, right? But it's talking about covenants. Now, who was given a covenant that his seed, right, is a covenant about his seed, right? Yeah. And we know it's Abraham. His seed will be as numerous as the stars and as the sand of the seas, right? It's a covenant about his seed, right? It's about Abraham. So we're going to have to go through the line of the children of Abraham, okay? All right. Genesis 15, verse 5 to 7. And he brought him forth abroad and said, look now toward heaven and tell the stars. Right. Tell if thou be able to number them. And he said unto them, so shall thy seed be. All right. Okay. Let me turn off this so I don't have to keep hearing this. Okay. And he believed in the Lord. He believed in the Lord. And he counted it to him for righteousness. And he said to him, I am the Lord that brought thee out of Ur of the Chaldees to give thee this land to inherit it. I already taken you out of Chaldees. Where did he? Yeah? This is after he left. He already left Mesopotamia. Ur of Chaldees, right? Ur of Chaldees. And he was given this covenant, right? Look at the heavens. Look at the stars. So shall thy seed be. This is from Spirit of Prophecy, Volume 1. The Lord appeared to Abraham and promised him that his seed should be like the stars of heaven for number. He also made known to him through the figure of the horror of great darkness which came upon him, right? The horror of great darkness, right? It's in the part of that covenant. When he gave his covenant, there was a horror of great darkness, which came upon Abraham, and that represented the long servile bondage of his descendants in Egypt. So his covenant was that your descendants is going to come back to this land, right? But first they have to go through the great darkness, which is the servile bondage, right? So they have to be in darkness, and darkness is bondage in Egypt. And so who is the shepherd that is promised then, that's going to take them out of that darkness? So Moses. So right now we already know that the first step, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Who was the shepherd that was promised? It's Moses, right? But Moses is a type of Jesus. Right, let me go there. Okay, all right. Moses is a type of Jesus. So it was Jesus that was promised also. But for them, for the children of Israel, while they were in bondage in Egypt, Moses is one that is promised. Okay. Genesis 15, verse 8 to 11. And he said, Lord God, whereby shall I know that I shall inherit it? When am I going to inherit Canaan? When am I going to inherit this land that you're going to give me? And he said unto him, take me a heifer, 3 years old, and a she-goat of 3 years old, and a ram of 3 years old, and a turtle dove and a young pigeon, right? A turtle dove of young pigeon. And he took him all these and divided them in the midst, and laid each piece one against another. But the birds he divided he not. So he divided the cow, the ram, and the she-goat, right? But he did not divide the birds. So there's like 3 of halves and 1. And when the fowls came down upon the carcass, right, Abraham drove it away. What does it mean? It's all a symbol. What does it mean? So when these are divided, what does it mean it's divided? Yeah. They're divided between Canaan and Egypt. Right? They're divided between Canaan and Egypt. How is it they're divided into Canaan and Egypt? And when the sun was down, a deep sleep fell upon Abraham, and a horror of great darkness. Oh, this is the horror of great darkness that Ellen White was saying. This is the servile bondage, the horror of great darkness. There's going to be a darkness. Fell upon him. And he said unto Abraham, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them. How many years? 400. Where's the 400 years then? Where's the 400 years? From the time that they were afflicted. When was Israel afflicted? When was Isaac afflicted? Who afflicted Isaac? Ishmael mocked him. When? When he was 5 years old, right there. 5 years old. Isaac is mocked. Right? And they're going to be afflicted for 400 years until the time of the Exodus. So this is the 400 years. And also that nation that's afflicting you, whom they shall serve, I will judge, right? He will judge. In the time of that darkness, at the end of that time of horror of great darkness, when they're afflicting you and you serve them, I will judge them. And afterward shall they come out with great substance. They're going to come out right here. And thou shalt go to thy fathers in peace. Thou shalt be buried in a good old age. But in the fourth generation, right? Which fourth generation? They shall come hither again. For the iniquity of the Amorites is not yet full. Where's the 4 generations? Here's the 4 generations. There's 4 here and then 4 here. They're divided into 4 on this side and 4 on this side. Right? What's the 4 on this side? They were in Canaan. And they're in Egypt. Right? 4, who's? Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Reuben. Right? These are the 4 generations in Canaan. What about the 4 generations in Egypt? Right. What's the 4 generations in Egypt? What's the 4 generations in Egypt? Starting with Levi, Kohath, Amram, and Aaron. Right? 4 generations. Right. Yeah, you can count it as that. Obviously some are into the 5th generation, some are probably, in the 3rd generation, but basically they're in the 4th generation. Because Levi, now it's easier to count with Levi, because Levi is now, the lineage is very easy to count. Obviously some are not 4 generations, but Levi is very easy because it's Aaron, right? Because Aaron was the one that came out, right? There's 4 in the 4th generation: Levi, Kohath, Amram. Because Levi was the one that went into Egypt, right? And then Levi, Kohath, Amram, and Aaron. In the 4th generation, they shall come out. There were 4 generations here, so this is divided into 4. One group of 4 is for Canaan, and one group of 4 is for Egypt. 4 generations on this side, 4 generations is on that side. This is the 400 years of being afflicted. First start with Isaac being mocked, right? Afflicted through the dark ages of Egypt, right? Okay, all right. Galatians 3 verse 16 to 7 and 17. Now to Abraham and his seed were the promises made. Well, when was the promise made? Right here. Right? The promise was made after, well, wait a minute. Where was the promise made? right? When he left Haran. Okay. The promises were made. He says not, and to seeds as of many, but as of one, and to thy seed, which is Christ. He's talking about Christ. Christ is the seed. But you know, Moses typifies Christ. So Moses will be the deliverer also, right? Right. Moses will be deliverer. Right? But the seed is Christ. But no, Moses typifies Christ. And this I say, that the covenant that was confirmed before God in Christ, the law, which was 430 years after, cannot disannul, that it should make the promise of none effect. So where's the 430 years? From leaving Haran here, right? The Haran. So 430 years, the promise was made here until now that they can come out. This 430 years. And it just so happens, right in the middle of that 430 years is 215 years in Canaan and 215 years in Egypt. That's why it's divided into two. You understand this what? Okay, what about that big bird that came in and what came out? What's that big bird? The fowl that shoo away. That's the Egyptians, right? They're persecuting, you know. But, you know, they're protected because now they can still leave, right? That's the big bird. I can see that as the Egyptians, right? Yeah. Even though the Egyptians want to subdue them and want to keep them in bondage, they're going to be, they're protected to it. Abraham was able to shoo them away, right?
Also in wars.
Yeah. They are kept under, no matter what. They were kept away from those big, the big birds. Okay, all right. Okay.
And the Egyptian, they have an eagle.
Yeah. Okay. And it came to pass that when the sun went down, right, and it was dark. Oh, okay. There's darkness also. There was a horror of darkness, and there's also the darkness. Behold, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp that passed between those pieces. In the same day the Lord made a covenant with Abraham, saying, Unto thy seed have I given this land, from the river of Egypt unto the great river, the river of Euphrates. Right? I have given you this land. I'm going to give you this land back, because even though you have to go down to Egypt, you're going to come back to this land. Right? The sun went down. There was a smoking furnace and a burning lamp. What does that smoking furnace and burning lamp symbolize? As a pledge of this covenant that you're going to come back, a smoking furnace and a burning lamp, what is it? A symbol of the divine presence of God. It passed between the severed victims, totally consuming them. Right? So what is this? This is a symbol of the presence of God, a lamp and a furnace, right? Right. So what was the symbol then? What was that, you know? So this is they're divided here, 4 on one side, 4 on the other side, okay? And there's that big bird, that bird that comes and has to be flown away. You know, we know that's the symbol of them, you know, in Canaan and also in Egypt.
So what's the bird represent?
The Egyptians that want to continue keep them in Egypt, right? And they were basically drowned in the Red Sea, right? And they were kept away, and their firstborn sons were killed. You know, that's how the bird was kept away, right? And this was the horror of great darkness. That's Egypt. And there's 400 years. And then they had to come out in the 4th generation. And they come out, okay? And then the sun went down, and there was dark, and you can see a lamp and a fiery furnace. All right. So what does the fiery furnace symbolize? It is the symbol of divine presence. But what also does it symbolize? What does the fiery furnace symbolize? Exodus 9, verse 8 to 10. And the Lord said unto Moses and to Aaron, take to you the handful of ashes of the... You take the ashes of the furnace. So what does the ashes of the furnace... It's talking about the ashes of the furnace here. And let Moses sprinkle it towards the heaven in the sight of Aaron. And it shall become small dust in all of the land. And shall be a boil breaking forth with blains upon men. And they took the ashes of the furnace, and it became boils. What was the ashes of the furnace? What did it become? Boils. Which plague was this? Which number? Which number? All right. It's very significant. It's very significant. It's the sixth. The sixth plague is boils. Okay? You're going to see why it's significant. And it represents the ashes of the furnace. And the ashes of a furnace is in darkness, right? It was dark. And there was the furnace, right? And there's the ashes of the furnace caused boils. So it's in the time of darkness. So you can see that the 6 means darkness also. The ashes of the furnace, right? God's presence is in the time of darkness. You see the furnace, right? It's in the time of darkness. 6. All right? Where do you see darkness also? Exodus 10 verse. Which darkness is this when the plague that comes that with it became so dark in Egypt? Which plague was this? No, it's not 10 for sure, because that's when the oldest one was killed. Which one was darkness? 9th. It's the 9th. Okay. Is a symbol of 6 and 9 darkness for some reason? Do you remember a 6 and 9 that's darkness? Oh, there you go. You got it. 6 and 9 is a symbol of darkness. Do you see that symbol? Pretty amazing, huh? And when they cried unto the Lord, he put darkness between you and the Egyptians, and brought the sea upon them and covered them, and your eyes have seen what I have done in Egypt. And ye dwelt in the wilderness a long season. There was a darkness in the 9th plague, right? The 6th and the 9th plague symbolizes darkness. And when Jesus was crucified in the middle of the day, right? He was crucified in the middle of the day. What happened during the 6th and the 9th hour? It became dark. All right? Okay. Through the symbols of the great darkness and smoking furnace. The great darkness and the smoking furnace. It's a symbol of God had revealed to Abraham the bondage of Israel in Egypt. And he declared that the bondage is darkness. And had declared that the time of their sojourning should be 400 years. Afterward he said, shall they come out with great substance? Against the word, all the power of Pharaoh's proud empire battled in vain. See, it's the birds. At the bird of Egypt, right? They're going to try to come, but they're going to battle in vain. On the selfsame day appointed the divine promise. It came to pass that all the hosts of the Lord went out from the land of Egypt. So in the heavens council, the hour of the coming of Christ had been determined, right? The coming of Christ, not the second coming. This is the first coming. When the great clock of time pointed to that hour, Jesus was born in Bethlehem, right? It's already predicted. It was all prophesied, right? Everything is already given. Okay. While this decree was in full force, this is from Patriarchs and Prophets. While this decree was in full force, a son was born to Amram and Jochebed. So who is it that's born to Amram and Jochebed? Moses. Devout Israelites of the tribe of Levi. The babe was a goodly child. And the parents, believing that the time of Israel's release was drawing near. How come they believe that, Israel is going to be delivered. They already know the prophecy of Abraham is going to be 400 years. They already know. They studied prophecy. Abram and Jochebed, they believe, they understand prophecy, and that God would raise up a deliverer for his people, determined that their little one should not be sacrificed. Faith in God strengthened their hearts, and they were not afraid of the king's commandment. Right? Okay. Moses was a type of Christ. Right? Right? And he was hidden. He was hidden, right? He was hidden in a basket in the Nile. Was Jesus hidden also? Where did he have to go and hide? He was hidden in Egypt? You know, is that a coincidence? Of course not. It had to be. You know, Moses is a type of Christ. Okay, so we see here, right? Number 6, right? Number 6 and number 9. There's darkness here. There's darkness here. But also, is midnight also darkness? Yeah, midnight is already darkness. What happened with the third plague? What happened with the third plague? We have the symbol right here. There's a. Right. What was the third plague? It was the plague of lice, right? And what's the significance of the third plague? The Egyptians cannot replicate this. Why cannot they replicate this? Yeah, they realized that it was the finger of God, right? And we know the finger of God symbolizes the time of midnight, right? That symbolizes time of midnight, right? The finger of God wrote on the wall of the court of Belshazzar, right? The finger of God, right? That was at midnight. Yeah, the finger of God. Okay? What's the significance of this, though? Because what happens with the next plague? Right, this is the lice, right? This is the lice. This is the third plague. What happened with the next plague? Is the fourth plague, and it's the swarm. Right? He says, rise up. Oh, rise up is very important. You have to rise up. Have to rise up. There's only 2 places in the plagues that Moses had to rise up. Okay? Right. But anyway, he rose up. He had to rise up because now is the plague of the swarm. And what is the significance of the plague of the swarm? He says, when the swarm comes, it will not hit on Goshen, because I will divide you. I will put a division between my people and thy people. Right? Tomorrow shall the sign be. He says he's making a prediction that tomorrow is going to be the fourth plague. You know, you have to be careful. You know, there's a big meaning to this. You know, it's going to be predicted that there's going to be. You have to prepare, right? You have to prepare, and I will sever you, because you can either be in Ramses or you can be where? In Goshen. Because in Goshen, there's not going to be any swarms there, right? There's not going to be any swarms of fly, right? Okay, so we know that we have to be in Goshen before the fourth plague. So that the symbol of the time that we know we have to be in Goshen is we have to know when the third plague is. And that's the finger of God. And finger of God is midnight, is lice. The finger of God is when they cannot replicate it, right? They cannot replicate, and it's the finger of God. It's the third plague. And we know that lines up with midnight, right? So we know when we have to be in Goshen, before the fourth plague, okay? All right. And then what are you going to do in Goshen? And thou shalt dwell in the land of Goshen. And they shall be near unto me, thou and thy children, and thy children's children, and thy flocks, and thy herds, and all that thou hast. And there will I nourish you. I will give you bread in Goshen. Okay? So Moses was what? Moses was given. And then what happened? Where are they going to eat their bread? In Goshen, right? They are in the green pastures of Goshen. When they first came to Egypt, they said, and it shall come to pass when Aaron shall call you, this Joseph says, hey, brothers, right? When the Pharaoh asks you, what kind of occupation are you? Say that you are shepherds. Why? They cannot live with shepherds. Why? What? Right, because the shepherds sacrifice their gods. Right? You cannot live with these people who sacrifice their gods. They have to live by themselves. Right? That ye shall say, thy servant's trade hath been about cattle from your youth even until now. Both we and also our fathers, that we may dwell in the land of Goshen. For every shepherd is an abomination unto the Egyptians. And where was that first established? Where was that first established that the Egyptians consider the Jews or the children of Israel abomination? Where was that first established? Where was that law first established? Remember the story. Who established it first? That's right, it's Abraham. When? When Abraham and Sarah went to Egypt during a time of famine. Right? In time of famine. Right? And then what? And the Pharaoh, he says, oh, you got a pretty sister here. You know, I want to marry your pretty sister. And then it turned out, hey, this is not your sister, this is your wife. Right? You know, and he put all right. But that also happened in the time of Jacob. Right? And there was a law that being put that, you know, those who are the shepherds, those who are shepherds are an abomination. You cannot mingle with the shepherds. Right? Okay. So it was in the time of their forefathers that's already put in. And that law was still in effect at the time of Joseph. Right? It was the time of Joseph. And, okay. All right. Before leaving Egypt, the people, by the direction of Moses, claimed a recompense of their unpaid labor. And the Egyptians were too eager to be freed from their presence to refuse them. They said, hey, you haven't been paying us for all the bricks that we made. You know, give us our back pay. Give us our back pay. That day, the bondmen went forth laden with the spoil of their oppressors. Now they got a lot of back pay now. Right? That day completed the history revealed to Abraham. Oh, this is the covenant, right? This is when they come out in great substance. That day completed the history revealed to Abraham in prophetic visions centuries before. What? How many centuries? 400 years, 430. That's 4 centuries before. Right? Ellen White doesn't say 4.3 centuries before, you know. She just makes centuries before. Thy seed shall be a stranger in the land that is not theirs, and shall serve them. They shall afflict them 400 years. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge, and afterward they shall come out with great substance. The 400 years had been fulfilled, and it came to pass that self-same day that the Lord did bring the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt by their armies. Oh, yeah. Go. Because all of us are going to die here. Otherwise, we're all going to die. Okay. All right. So we'll put this on a line. Okay. So let's put this on a line. So they were in darkness. They were in bondage. They were in servile bondage. Right? They were in bondage in Egypt. Okay. And who was the promised shepherd? Moses. Right? Because Moses is a type of Christ. He came. Right? and he was hidden in the Nile. All right. And where was their green pastures then? It's Goshen, right? It was Goshen. That's where they were fed. That's where they stayed from the 4th until the 10th plague, right? From the 4th and the 10th plague. Okay, now look at this. They were there from the 4th to the 10th plague. What about Joseph? When his brothers came and they said, okay, you can have Goshen also. They stayed there from the 2nd year to the 7th year. 5 out of the 7 years they lived in Goshen. Here they were separated and be able to live in Goshen and continue to feed there while the Egyptians were suffering the plagues from the 4th to the 10th. So 6 out of 4th to the 10th, that were like 7 out of 10, right? 7 out of the 10 plagues, they lived in Goshen, right? Anyway, I do see a similarity, right? You do see a similarity. Okay. All right, so when they came out, it was what day was it that they came out? No. It was the Passover. The 14th day. That night they came out. They came out on the 14th day, and they start walking, right? Where did they come to first? Where did they come to first? Okay, you can open your Bible, but I'm just going to tell you. They came to a place called Succoth. Okay, I'll show. Where is it? And Exodus 12, verse 37. This is after they got to Succoth, right? And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth. Right, to Succoth, okay? I'm going to, this is after their Succoth. Where did they go? Okay, Exodus 12, verse 37. And the children of Israel journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot that were men besides children. 600,000.
That's a mixed multitude.
Yeah, that's about 3 million of them. Right, it is mixed multitude. They all came out mixed multitude. Yeah, they came out of Ramses to Succoth. Okay, this is the first day, right, that they came out to Ramses and Succoth, to Succoth. All right, what does Succoth mean? Okay.
The number at the next verse didn't say the numbers, but
Yeah, it could be.
went up also.
Oh, okay, all right. Mixed multitude is it's even more than 600,000. Oh my. There's a whole, I'm glad you actually picked up on that. There's actually more, and there were mixed multitudes in addition, right? Okay, so the first place that the Israelites came to after leaving Ramses was Succoth. It is probably about a day's journey of about 15 miles, because imagine 1 million people walking. How long will that take?
Just a few.
You can't walk that far with all your cattle and all your belongings and all the gold and the children. You can't be walking that far. 1 million people, 1 million men. It's amazing, right? So they got to Succoth. And, okay, the first thing that he did when he got to Succoth was they consecrated the firstborn to the Lord, right? They consecrated the firstborn to the Lord. How? Moses taught them the unleavened bread, right? What is the unleavened bread? Obviously, that's also Jesus, right? The feast of the unleavened bread, right? And then they have to give and then it's the wave sheaf. The feast of the unleavened bread, obviously that symbolizes Jesus also. Everything symbolizes Jesus. The feast of the unleavened bread. So remember, the feast of the unleavened bread is the next day after Passover. It's on the 15th day, all right? Okay, so this is where you start getting into the feast, because on that 15th day, they had to learn about the unleavened bread. Why the unleavened bread? What does the unleavened bread mean? On a physical level. Not that it's the meaning of Jesus. Why was it unleavened bread?
Because they didn't have enough time to prepare. You cannot hurry. They cannot let it rise.
They don't have time for it to rise. There was not even time to rise. They just make the unleavened bread and then they just start walking. Right? They don't have, that's why it's flat, dry bread. Right, it's flat, dry bread because they don't have time to let it rise. Right? No time. Okay. Right? That's on a physical level. All right. And then from Succoth, now Succoth means what? If you look at Succoth, who has their e-swords? What does Succoth mean?
It's a place in Palestine.
Yeah, it's a place, right? But what is it? What does it mean? It means booths. Booth, right? And like tents. It's tents. There's going to be feast. Are we going to see where that is going to be? So the first day, what did they do? They celebrated Feast of Unleavened Bread that's the next day, right? Because that's the 15th day, right? Okay. And they took their journey from Succoth and encamped in Elim, in the edge of the wilderness. And the Lord went before them by a pillar of cloud to lead them the way, and by night in a pillar of fire, to give them light to go by day and night. He took not away the pillar of cloud by day, nor the pillar of night of fire by night before the people. Now look at this. There's a fire and a cloud. What does that remind you? Remember the covenant of Abraham. There's a pillar, there's a cloud, and also a light. Where do you see that in the covenant? I could not believe it because I was looking at the thing and I said, what does this mean? There's got to be a physical meaning to this. What does the fire and the cloud mean? Look at this. Do you see a fire and a cloud? What does that mean? It's the presence of God. Right? The presence of God led them. Right? Do you see the light and the smoke and the cloud right there? The cloud and the...
And the presence of God is only in the camp.
It's in the camp.
Outside, there's no protection for them.
It's all in the... We used to study Abraham's covenant, but we didn't know any of these meanings. Do you see that? Wow. Okay. So the Lord led them by a pillar and a cloud. That's the presence of God right there. Okay. And what happened? Where did they go next? Well, now they have to go to the still waters. Okay, where's the waters now? It's got to be the Red Sea. It has to be the Red Sea. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea. And the Lord caused the sea to go back by an east wind all that night and made the sea dry and the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground. And the waters were a wall unto them on the right and on the left. All right? So what does it mean that they were in the still waters of the Red Sea? They were being led. Thou leadest me to the still water. They being led to the still waters, right? Thy way is in the sea, and thy path is in the great waters, and thy footsteps are not known. See? They were led to the sea, right? To the still waters. Thou leadest thy people like a flock by the hand of Moses and Aaron. Thou leadest me to the still waters, into the Red Sea. And what happened to them in the Red Sea? 1 Corinthians 10, verse 1-4. Moreover, brethren, I would not that ye should be ignorant that how that all your fathers were under the cloud and all passed through the sea. They were all baptized in the sea. Right? Yeah. Unto Moses in the cloud and in the sea. And did all eat the same spiritual meat, and did all drink the same spiritual drink, for they drank of the spiritual rock. Now this is afterwards. Then they have to go to, right? They have to go to. Okay, we'll get there. We'll get there. The spiritual rock that followed them, and that rock was Christ. But in the Red Sea, what happened to them? They were baptized. Okay, right, I'm just going to try to see if I can get to a timeline here. Yeah. All right. Okay. So Moses brought Israel from the Red Sea. After they got to the Red Sea, where did they come? And they went out into the wilderness of Shur. So first they went to Succoth, and then when they went to Elim, and then they got the Red Sea, and now went to Shur. Pretty soon we're gonna, these names are not gonna be, foreign to us. Succoth, Elim, Red Sea, and then Shur. What happened to went to Shur? And then they went 3 days. 3 days, and they found no water. And when they came to Marah. Okay, what does Marah mean? Bitter. Okay. But Marah is also a vision. Is there a 3 with Marah vision? When Daniel received the Marah vision, how many times was he touched? 3 times. They could not drink of the waters of Marah, for they were bitter. Therefore the name of it was called Marah. And the people murmured unto Moses. See, when you go into the wilderness, you're going to bring your water and your food. What do you think are you going to run out of first? Your water or your food? You're going to run out of water first. So as soon as they got here, they ran out of water and they murmured. We have nothing else to drink. We're out of water. And he cried unto the Lord, and the Lord showed him a tree, which he had cast into the waters, and the water were made sweet, and he made them a statute and ordinance. So he said, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to teach you something, okay? I'm going to teach you something. A statute and an ordinance. This is a statute and an ordinance, okay? In other words, it's a law. If thou wilt diligently hearken to the voice of the Lord thy God, and will do that which is right in the sight, I will give ear to his commandments, and keep all his statutes. I will put none of these diseases. So what did he say? He's going to put a law first. He's going to teach the law. Okay, here's the law, okay? All right? Which I have brought you upon the Egyptians. If you are faithful to my laws, I'm not give you the diseases of Egypt. And then after that, they came to Elim. So they went to Shur. They found that water, and the water was made sweet, and they was given a law of that they had to follow, so that they would not receive the diseases of Egypt. Now, it's got to be a health law. So what? If he's going to give you a health reformation, what is he going to give you first? The health law first. Here's the law first, okay? I'm going to give you a reformation, okay? Because the next thing you realize that it's going to be a health reformation. And they came to Elim, where there were 12 wells of water and 70 palm trees, and they encamped by the waters. Here's water. They're still at the water here. All right? So at Marah, there was water. And they also went to Elim, where there's water. 12 wells of water, 70. There's 70 palm trees. Is 70 a symbol? Yes, there's 70 a symbol. Right? We know the 70. How many of the house of Jacob came down to Egypt? There's 70 of them. Right? And they camped there by the waters. Right? Okay, what does it mean that there were these palm trees? The palm trees of Elim in the middle of the desert. I took this picture. I saw this picture. Isn't that beautiful? Look at this. Right in the middle of the desert. Look at this. Suddenly you've got palm trees. There's an oasis. There's water right there. There's 70 palm trees. And the palm tree, beaten by the scourging sun and fierce sandstorm, stands green and flourishing and fruitful in the midst of the desert. Its roots are fed by living springs. The crown of verdure is seen afar from the parched, desolate plain. And the traveler ready to die urges his failing steps to the cool shade and the living, life-giving water. The tree of the desert is a symbol of what God means the life of His children in this world to be. So you have to be a palm tree in the desert, right? You have to be a palm tree in the desert, because when the people see you, they know there's water, right? They are to guide weary souls, full of unrest and ready to perish in the desert sin. You know, when I'm walking in the desert and I'm so thirsty, and I look at the palm tree there, I know there's water. It is going to guide you to the living water. They are to point their fellow men to Him who gives the invitation. If any man thirst, let him come unto me and drink water. Drink, yeah. Education 1:16, right? Yeah. The tree in the desert. You are to be the tree in the desert, because people, when they look at you, they know where there's water, right? You're gonna always point to the water giver, which is Jesus, all right? Leviticus 23. Okay, what happens with palm trees? Now they're going to have to celebrate. How do they celebrate palm trees now? Also in the 15th day of the 7th month, when ye have gathered in the fruit of the land, ye shall keep a feast.
The feast of the booths.
Right. In the 7 days, and the first day shall be a Sabbath. In the 8th day shall be a Sabbath. And they will make boughs of goodly trees, branches of palm trees. I should have highlighted these palm trees. You're going to make branches of palm trees and the boughs of thick trees and the willows of the brook. That is next to the brook, right? That's next to the water. And ye shall rejoice before the Lord God 7 days. And ye shall keep a feast 7 days in the year. And it will be a statute forever in your generation. You celebrate in the 7th month. And ye shall dwell in booths. This is in the Feast of Tabernacles. What is the Feast of Tabernacles called? We already went through this. The booth. What is the booth in Hebrew? Succoth. Succoth, all right? It's the celebration of the Succoth, right? They were making booths. This is the Feast of Booths. I had to look up where Succoth is. It's actually Jacob. And Jacob journeyed to Succoth and built him a house and made booths for his cattle. Therefore, the name of the place is called Succoth. It's a booth. And they dwelt also in booths, that is made of palm trees. This is where they first encountered palm trees, in that place, right? In Elim. All right, Elim is when they get the palm trees, right? And which means booths. All right. Yeah, they do it all the time. Okay. All right. So we're gonna put it in a timeline. Okay. All right. And I think we'll. So this is the bondage. Time of bondage, the darkness, the midnight, and the 6th and the 9th plague all symbolizes darkness. But also the 4th. Between the 4th and the 10th plague is not going to hit the Egyptians, because they are eating in the wilderness of Goshen, right? They're separated, right? And Moses obviously was the shepherd that comes. And they are eating in the green pastures of Goshen. And during that time, Egypt was in the time of the plagues, right? And then now they are being led out. And they're being led out by the presence of the Lord in the fire and in the cloud, right? And they were led, see, Moses and Aaron led them to the still waters of the Red Sea, right? Where they were baptized in the Red Sea, right? And they had to go into. Then they also went into wilderness, where they went into Marah, where they also had bitter water. And the tree, which is symbolizes Christ, tree was thrown into that water, and the water was made sweet.
So it's a test process.
Right. It's also water also. Right. And they were also they were led, right? They were led to the waters, right? It's a testing process for them. They were also led to the waters of Elim. And then the waters of Elim symbolizes the booths that they also live in, right? So that's the palm tree, right? That symbolizes Christ also, which is, we have to be as a palm tree in the desert as well. Okay, I think we'll stop here. And then we'll continue on with the next, when we get to the restoration. Where was the restoration? Now, first he had to give them the commandments that, here's the commandment. You got to follow my laws and statutes so that you won't have the diseases of Egypt. So, where he's going to restore them, there's going to be a restoration, there's going to be a health reformation, right? So the next thing is going to have to be a health reformation. But the first thing he had to do, he has to establish the ground rules first, the ground rules for the health reformation, right? This was going to happen. You follow the health reformation, you're not going to get the diseases of Egypt. He has to establish the ground rules first. If you don't follow the health reformation, you are going to get the diseases of Egypt. Then he gives them the reformation. So the next thing is we're going to study here next week is going to be the health reformation. All right? Next 2 weeks. Oh boy. Yeah.
Not next week.
Yeah. Okay. And that is a more sure word of prophecy.